So today I'll be doing my grades for each individual pick of this Giants draft. As you guys know already, based on my other videos, I was a fan of this draft, but I want to go into each player individually and just talk about what grade I would give them based on what I think their future success will be here. Will they make a team? Will they make the team? Will they have a big impact? All that type of stuff. I'm trying to put that into one grade. I might like a player, but if it's a 7th-round pick, the guy might get hurt in training camp. He might not make the team, and all of a sudden, that guy that I liked as a B plus, all of a sudden doesn't make the team and turns into a fail. So that kind of stuff happens, and it's just realistic. So my plan for the next couple weeks is to I have to watch the undrafted free agents. I have not gotten into any of them. I obviously know Ben Victor from Ohio State based off, me watching him previously, but everybody else I'm kind of unfamiliar with. So there's that. And then I want to do a bunch of film reviews or film breakdowns of all the picks. And, hopefully we get that done in the next couple of weeks. So stay with us. We'll put out some good content. Hopefully you enjoy. But now let's get into these individual player grades. So as you can see, I have it laid out on one graphic. I don't really plan on diving too deep into these players once again because that's what I've been doing the previous 3 days. So if you have not watched my previous videos, go back and watch my day 1, day 2, and day 3 reactions. I dive much deeper into these players individually, and I'll give a better analysis than what I'm about to do right now. I'm just trying to be honest with these grades here. So for Andrew Thomas, you guys know I love this pick very much. I would give it an A+ based off need and the talent of the player. I think it meets both ends of the spectrum right there. They didn't reach for him or anything like that. Some people speculated they'd reach for this player. I personally don't think so. I think he's a top 2 tackle in this class and plays a very important position. So I was very happy with it. Of course, they could have traded back here, but apparently the Giants had no one to trade back with. So that's the one bad thing I think you can say about this pick. I've heard some people compare him to Eric Flowers because people are still scarred about that, and rightfully so. But believe me, this guy is not Eric Flowers. The Giants will have themselves an average left tackle at minimum. I don't see Andrew Thomas being a train wreck of a pick. If he is, I take more responsibility than anybody. I mean, the Giants should take the most responsibility, but me, I'm a big believer in this guy as well. So look, I'm very happy with this pick. Has all the tools in the world to be one of the best left tackles in football. He has the good feet. I think he's pretty quick, good movement skills. He's a very, very good run blocker. Never got really embarrassed in a game in pass protection as well. So, I think this guy is the complete package, and I'm very happy that he is the Giants, left tackle for the future. Maybe not yet, but he will be the Giants left tackle of the future. So, very satisfied with this pick. Andrew Thomas, number 4. I would give it an A+. For pick number 36, the Giants selected Xavier McKinney, the Alabama safety. I give this one an A because, I do feel Andrew Thomas has the higher ceiling. Of course, once you get later in the draft, you're going to have lower ceilings on these guys. It's just reality. But Xavier McKinney is going to be a very, very solid NFL player. I am pretty sold on him being a starter for a long time. That's another pick I don't see being a train wreck. I think Xavier McKinney is too versatile and just too good of a player to just flop in the NFL. I don't see that happening. Let's say he fails as a free safety, then you can try him at strong safety, you can try him at slot corner. There are so many things in his way basically to failure, if that makes sense. I think if he doesn't pan out at one position, now the Giants will have him at multiple positions, but what I'm saying is it's not like you're just picking him to do one thing. He can do so many different things, and he'll find a way to help your football team. So I think the Giants have themselves a really good pick here. It was a very good value pick as well because I was surprised as anybody that he fell to 36. I was not planning on this, of course, and when I saw Grant Delpit, McKinney, and then Antoine Winfield Jr. fall to number 36, it was kind of like, the Giants have their pick of the best safety on the board here in their mind, and the first picks of day 2 were running back, wide receiver, and I don't know if it was in that order, but I'm pretty sure I got the position groups right. So the Giants had, their best defensive player on the board for round 2. I think Xavier McKinney is a guy who, of course, went to Alabama, has that Nick Saban, Joe Judge connection, so that could have been why he went here. I'm sure Nick Saban put in the good word for him, but rightfully so. He's a guy that can literally do everything. Can line up in the box, the slot, free safety. He can basically do everything. So very satisfied with this pick. His upside is not through the roof because he's more of a smaller player, but we've seen small safeties make it in his league before, so that's not really something I want to hold against him. And look, I know he's small, but the guy hits pretty big. He has some pretty big hits on tape. That's something you have to love to see. And if he's used the right way, this will be a phenomenal pick. And I do think the Giants, hopefully with a smarter defensive coordinator, will find the right ways to use Xavier McKinney. So based off the value and the talent of the player here, I would definitely give this pick an A. Pick number 99 in round 3 was Matt Peart, the offensive tackle from UConn. Another pick I was very satisfied with. Another one I was not expecting because they went offensive tackle at pick 4. But look, the Giants are definitely building for the future in this draft, so I definitely respect what they're doing, taking the guys they thought were the best players on the board at their certain picks. So Matt Peart's a guy who definitely has a lot of upside, but might be a bit of a project. He's not a gigantic project. Like, I don't think he's that far off from being a starter in the NFL. He might need like half a season to 1 year of sitting, but I do think by next year, this guy might be our starting right tackle. So that's something to look forward to. You talk about his quickness and his technique, and even his hands are pretty good. Very strong hands as well. Very good at squaring up his blocks. He has all the technique you'd want to be a starting right tackle in the NFL. He might need to get a bit stronger. That's the one thing about him. And you might need to fix a tiny bit of technique stuff, but I really don't think it's that big of a deal. But I think really the main thing for him is getting stronger and just learning the NFL playbooks more and stuff like that. But outside of that stuff, he could be a very solid right tackle. So I gave it a B+ because there is the chance that he never translates to the NFL completely. But I do think he has the necessary amount of upside where I would have taken him as well. I just don't see a reason not to at pick number 99. I think he has a chance to be a starting right tackle for a long time. And when he's falling into number 99, I say you take that shot. So if the Giants find their starting right tackle for a long time in the third round, especially at the end of it, that's a great value pick. So I think this is a pick that you kind of have to make. And a guy like Peart going to a smaller school might be overlooked by some people, but when you watch him on tape, it's another guy that you can easily fall in love with. So I definitely see what the Giants saw here. It's another pick I was happy with, so I'll give it a B+. Pick number 110 was Darnell Holmes, the cornerback from UCLA. I gave this one an A-. So Darnell Holmes, of course, has his size limitations, only being 5'10", and I think a bit over 200 pounds. So that's the downside, but the upside is just very good in my mind. I mean, in today's NFL, the slot corner position is so important, and if he is going to start for this team, it is going to be a slot corner, and I do believe they'll try him there. So this is a guy that had a really good Senior Bowl and definitely put a lot of good things on film as well. You can tell he has good instincts and did a pretty good job against taller receivers. I mean, for his body frame and the height he has, he gave it his all for sure. And I think in small slot, situations where he has to just cut on a dime, I think he has the quickness and the good hips to do that. He can just move in and out real quick. So I like that about him, and I do think he has a lot of skills that can translate to being a very good slot corner in the NFL. So I was definitely on board with this pick. He was a guy that definitely caught my eye when watching him about a month ago, and I was like, I'm all in on this guy. So if they take him in the draft, which they did, it would have been a pick I loved. So I think based on the talent and the need at cornerback, slot corner specifically, and on the talent of a player like Darnell Holmes, I was definitely on board with this pick. There is a world where he might not translate to slot corner because he really didn't play much slot corner at UCLA. So there's a world where it doesn't translate to the NFL, which is why I can't give it an A+. But in terms of talent, I love the player, and if he can make that adjustment to the next level, I think the Giants might have a steal here, and this is definitely one of the sleepers of this draft. So I give this pick an A-. For pick number 150, the Giants took Shane Lemieux, the guard from Oregon. So I was a little surprised by this pick. I'm not going to lie. I was not expecting a guard because when you see position G, you're like, oh, well, we have Will Hernandez and Kevin Zeitler who are pretty good players. So, like, why are we taking a guard? And then you get the news that they might be trying to put him at center, and it makes a lot more sense. So I'm pretty satisfied with this pick. I watched Shane Lemieux before the draft for a couple games, and I liked him. I mean, he was a pretty solid player. He didn't do anything to stick out too much. I liked his quickness. Thought he was very strong, but he wasn't like spectacular. I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't like he was Quentin Nelson in college, but he seemed like a very solid player that I thought could be a week 1 starter in the NFL. So to take him in round 5, I think this is very good pick in my mind. So I do think he was one of the top guards in this class. It wasn't the best guard class out there, but still one of the top guys in the class. And the Giants, they could use him at center. And if he ends up being a really good center one day, then this is a great pick, especially in the 5th round. So I know taking 4 or 3 offensive linemen in the top 5 picks is kind of a lot in some people's minds, but this guy's probably one of the better players on the board at that point. So I really can't, blame them for trying to take a guy like this if they think he's the best player available. So I was all right with it. He's definitely one of those hog molly. He definitely, fits that hog molly mold for sure. I think he was 310 pounds and 6'5" or so, or something like that, 6'4". So very big guy and very good in the run game as well. So he's another guy just like Andrew Thomas that will make Saquon Barkley's job much easier. He might give up some pressures here and there and pass protection, but overall, a very solid player. Has a very, very strong base. That's something that stood out as well. Didn't really get beat on too many plays. There was maybe 1 or 2 plays. I think I watched 2 or 3 games of him in full. So that's probably like 100 plays, 100 plus plays, and I saw him get beat like twice, which is not too bad. So if that can translate to the NFL, then that's a very good player. We'll see how, the transition to center goes. He might compete with Nick Gates to be the center next year, and if he gets that starting job, then that's awesome. So we'll see where he goes from there, but I don't think he has a very high bust rate. I do think he'll be a pretty average starter at minimum. I do think, he'll be fine. So he might not be a star one day, but I think he'll at least be a pretty good starter. So I think the Giants found themselves a pretty good one here in the middle round. So that's why I'm going with an A- for Shane Lemieux, the guard from Oregon. For pick number 183, the Giants took Cameron Brown, the linebacker from Penn State. I was not familiar with him before they drafted him, but of course going back and watching him, there are things to like about him. I'm just not sold on him translating to the NFL. But I give it a B because he has so many physical tools that a lot of guys don't have that you might as well take the shot here. I think this is round 6 now, so to take this guy at pick number 183, it's like, why not? If he pans out, that's fantastic. If not, then it doesn't matter because most 6th-round picks don't even hit anyway. So Cam Brown, I think, has that 6'5 frame, 230-something pounds, and pretty quick. He's not the fastest guy out there. I think he ran a 4.72, I'm pretty sure it was. He expected to run faster, so him himself probably thinks he's a 4.6 40 type guy, but he's the type of guy that can make tackles all over the field, has that sideline to sideline speed. I do have concerns about his strength and stuff like that, and this is definitely more of a project type pick. I don't really think he'll be a starter week 1. That would definitely shock me if he was, so I think he'll get a lot of run in preseason. We'll see how he pans out there, and maybe down the line in a few years we'll see him develop into a much better player once he grows into his body and hopefully gets stronger and stuff like that. So there are some red flags to him. I do think getting strong is the main thing, and kind of anticipation skills sometimes weren't that great, but for the most part, as I said before, it's a 6th-round pick, and I'm like, this guy has so many physical gifts that other players don't have, so you might as well take the shot. So I'll give Cam Brown a B. I'm not sold that he'll pan out as a starting linebacker one day, but I don't mind the pick because of how late in the draft it is and all the physical gifts he has, so I'll take it. I'll give this one a B. Pick number 218 was Carter Kaufman, the outside linebacker from Minnesota. So this is the first pick that gets into that C range, but this is kind of what happens when you get into the 7th round. So not many of these picks pan out, to be honest with you. Some 7th round picks were even cut before they even play a game. I do think Carter Kaufman might have a role here as a special teams player. He might come in here and try to do the job that Nate Stupar could not do. So we'll see if he can do that. But I just don't ever see him being a starting defensive player. I don't ever see him being a starting outside linebacker in the NFL. I could be wrong, and I hope I am. And I kind of said the same thing about Ryan Connelly last year, and Ryan Connelly turned out to be a guy that looked like a starting player. So hopefully I'm wrong about Carter Kaufman. But Kaufman was a guy who got a lot of sacks on specific plays, whether it was stunts or just beating guys at the edge because he was faster than them. So he ran a pretty quick 40. I forget what his numbers were exactly, but kind of undersized for the NFL. Doesn't have any athletic gifts that kind of that you love. So, in the NFL to succeed, you kind of have to have a crazy body type, and I just don't see Carter Kaufman having that. I do hope I'm wrong about him, though, but I think at worst here, the Giants have themselves a pretty good special teams player at minimum, so I can't be too mad at this pick, and I do think, NFL is 3 phases, offense, defense, special teams, and you want to make sure you're good at all 3 of them. So if the Giants found themselves a good special teams player, especially in round 7, then it's a pick I'm pretty satisfied with, so I'll go with a C. Pick number 238 was TJ Brunson, a guy I would also give a C. I see him being a backup or a depth piece in the future. Maybe can compete with a David Mayo type guy to be like the 3rd or 4th string linebacker. We'll see how that one goes. I compared him to BJ Goodson in a video, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever it was. So I do think he could have a BJ Goodson type career. And BJ Goodson at one point was a starter for this team. It didn't last too long, but he might get his opportunity to start at some point. I did like his leadership skills. When reading about him, a lot of people raved about his leadership. So that's something that the Giants definitely like to have. Good personalities in the locker room, especially since Dave Gettleman took over, so that's something that will fit the mold there. He's not the strongest guy. He definitely missed some tackles. That was concerning. He wasn't really good with some play recognition. Not going to be very good at guarding tight ends and running backs. That's not really his forte, so that's something to be concerned about. But as I said in a previous video, I think after we drafted him, if this was like the 1980s, I think this is a linebacker that a lot of NFL teams would be much more in love with. But now when you need more athleticism and just better ball skills and pass coverage skills, I don't think TJ Brunson's the type of guy you'd look for. So I watched his 2 games against Clemson and Alabama. He didn't stick out in those games, honestly, so that was a little concerning because in those games you're mostly playing NFL talent. He looked like a backup player out there. I'm sure he had some good moments against some not-so-good teams, but when playing against that elite talent, didn't really see anything that stuck out to me. So, I mean, this could be a guy who, could rack up some tackles as a starter. I just don't ever see him being a starting linebacker in the NFL. I don't really think he fits this team because right now Blake Martinez and Ryan Connolly are hopefully the starters at linebacker, and even David Mayo behind them. So if he can beat out David Mayo, that's great for him, and we'll see if he ever gets any playing time. Once again, this could be a special teams option, a guy on kickoffs and stuff like that. So we'll see. I don't think Brunson will ever be like a starting all-pro type defender, but once again, I hope I'm wrong. I'm not rooting for these guys to fail, but you guys know I'm just trying to give you my honest opinion here and stuff like that. So TJ Brunson, due to the limited upside and some missed tackles and such, I will give that pick a C. For pick number 247, we have Chris Williamson, the corner from Minnesota. I give this one a C-, which is my lowest grade, obviously. I wouldn't give a 7th-round pick an F. I'm not like a jerk like that. I mean, look, it's a 7th-round pick. The chances of these guys even panning out are so slim to none anyway, so it's like I'm not going to give this a bad grade. It's like you want to take a shot in the dark, and if it pays off, then you look very smart. So if they can find a way for Chris Williamson to help this football team, it's definitely a good pick, but we'll see if that one pans out in the future. But when watching him, I didn't really, the thing I saw the most was the missed tackles. I was not a fan of that. He wasn't like the most physical guy out there. He did have some decent ball skills though. He had good awareness and stuff like that, played the ball at the high point very well, used the out of bounds boundary as an extra defender. He was just very good spatial awareness and stuff like that. So he was good on deep balls. I think his coverage skills are probably better than a guy like Grant Haley, but his tackling skills were just not good at all in my opinion. He might be a bit too small for the NFL. I think he's 205 pounds. He won't really come up in the box and make too many tackles. He does have some tackles on tape in the box, but he has some, when I watched him, there was some missed tackles as well, so that's another concern. I don't really see him sticking with this team too long. Once again, I hope I'm wrong because it would be nice to have another depth piece at corner in case some other guys go down, so that would be great. I just didn't, fall in love with him when watching him. So, hopefully I'm wrong about it. I've been wrong before. So we'll see how Chris Williamson's career pans out. But, for me, I would give it a C-, as I said, because it is the 7th round and the chances of any of these picks paying off anyway is probably very low. So I'll go with a C-. For the final pick, the Giants took Tay Crowder, number 255. I give this one a B- because I have a little crush on Tay Crowder right now, I'm not going to lie. So I watched 2 games of him, and I was very impressed. I think he showed a lot of things that I like. He played the pass pretty well. He even gave out some big hits on passing plays as well. I always think back to this play against Notre Dame where he lit a guy up over the middle of the field on a passing play, good anticipation and stuff like that. And he's all over the field. I mean, you see some guys kind of just run around the field like a chicken with his head cut off, but this guy's always running around with a purpose, making a lot of tackles. So, look, I don't know if I just picked his 2 best games in his college career to watch, but when I watched him, I was like, this guy's not that bad. So I really hope they give him a chance to make this team. I do think he has a chance to maybe be like a poor man's Corey Littleton type guy. I watched a lot of Corey Littleton because he was a free agent, and I see a little bit of that in him. So I think Tay Crowder has some potential, which is the most important thing here. If you have upside and you're the final pick of the draft, I just say why not take a chance. I was not familiar with him before the draft process, but then when I went back and watched his 2 games, I was like, hey, this guy's not too bad. So I do think he has some traits out here. He has good tackling technique, wrapped up pretty well compared to everybody else. I mean, there were some guys in this class that did not have the best tackling technique, like TJ Brunson I saw miss some tackles, Chris Williamson missed some tackles, and even the Penn State guy, Cameron Brown, missed some tackles, even missed some sack opportunities as well. Really didn't see too many missed tackles from a guy like Tay Crowder, so I'm not sure why he fell so much exactly. Of course, he could be stronger and stuff, but for the most part, for pick number 255, I think that's a very solid pick. And I think if any linebacker out of Crowder and Brunson and, not even linebacker, but Chris Williamson, if any of those guys make it out on the roster, I do think Tay Crowder has the best chance here. I don't think his chances are high because you're such a low pick, and the Giants have a lot of linebackers now based off this draft. I mean, you have Blake Martinez, Ryan Connolly, you have Cameron Brown probably, you have David Mayo, probably someone else I'm forgetting. So that's 4 guys right there for that position. So I'm not sure how many other guys they would take there. We'll see if he makes it onto the practice squad, which I hope he does, because I do think Tay Crowder has some potential. I'm very excited to watch him in the preseason and see exactly what he does. But if he surprised us next August, I would honestly not be surprised by it, because I liked a lot of what I saw from him. So I'll give this one a B- because it's just very low risk and a high reward pick, and I do think he has a lot of physical traits that can pay off and work in the NFL. So that'll do it for this video. Overall, I give this draft an A-, something around there, maybe between that if that's possible, a 92, 93%. So yeah, I was very satisfied with it. The Giants, I think when we look back on this draft in a few years, 3 to 5 years, we'll probably say to ourselves, hey, we found a cornerstone piece in Andrew Thomas, Xavier McKinney, maybe even Darnell Holmes. We might have found the future center in Shane Lemieux, and even a future right tackle in Matt Peart. So, I mean, look, if you can get 5 starting players from this class, that is phenomenal, and that's an A type draft. I wasn't too much of a fan of some of the later 7th round picks. I wasn't a big Kaufman, Brunson, or Williamson guy. I even have questions about Cam Brown, of course. Can he translate to the NFL? But that's what happens with later round picks. These guys are not going to be sure things, so don't hate on me for it. It's just the truth. I mean, not a lot of times we see 6th and 7th round picks pay off in the NFL. But as I said before, I do think it's worth taking shots on these guys, because a lot of them have a lot of upside, so I was definitely fine with it. So that's basically it. So I gave this an A-. Let me know what your draft grades are for this team and for this draft. I was very happy with it, so let me know what you guys think. I'll have some videos hopefully coming out soon in the future about undrafted free agents, and hopefully doing some film breakdowns on our draft picks, and hopefully you guys enjoy those videos. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next time.